Okay, well, welcome back. This is the second video. This one is just trying to give you an idea about the basics of gameplay. What we've got here is just a couple of the tiles here. We've got our water space, space number 4, adjacent to our mountain space, space number 5. Our seaplane at the moment here is landed in the water space earlier on in the game, and I'm now about to take my turn. So a reminder, at this point in time I've got my seaplane dashboard here in front of me with all my spare parts. Here's my pilot with its special equipment. Here's my cargo, which wants to be delivered to the mountain space, so I'm thinking about landing here to deliver it. Here's a couple of equipment things which we'll have a look at again if we need them in a moment. Okay. In addition, I have available to me at the moment three of these tricks and boost cards, which I may require. So what I'm going to do is we're going to first of all attempt to take off. So in a turn you have 2 phases. Just to help you, I'm going to send along this summary card which summarises the phases. Each turn you get you take 2 phases and then draw a tricks and boost card, regardless of how many you played. Okay, so you do 2 phases. Now there are 3 phases in the game that you can choose from. You can either do a taking off phase, which there are a couple of options of things to do in it. You can do a fly on phase, or you can do a landing phase. Okay, so basically just one of those 3 phases, and you're going to get to do 2 phases. So you could take off and fly, fly and fly, fly and land, land and take off. You get the idea. Okay. Now, what are you going to do? In this particular case, I'm on the ground in this water area, but I've got some damage, which I took earlier on in the race. So probably before I want to do anything else, I want to try and repair the damage, as it's still early on in the race, and I'm probably going to think I'm going to want to use all that fuel at some point later on. So what I can first do, if I refer to my little chart again, is I can do what is called a repair and scavenge action. Okay, this is all during the takeoff phase, so I'm doing a takeoff phase sort of thing. But in a takeoff phase, I can either, while I'm on the ground, do things that get me ready for takeoff, such as repairing or refueling and that kind of thing, or I can actually take off. Well, at the moment I want to do the repair and scavenge action. So what it says here is that you don't have to test for this, you just remove all damage, so badoink, but the damage markers are placed in the score area and they count against me at the end of the game, unless I can do something about it. I then take 1 fuel cube, like that, and then I can choose a number of additional fuel or spare parts. How many do I choose? I look at this number here. This is what we call the resource number. I can take on 2 more things. Now I've actually got no space for spare parts at the moment, so actually I can't do. I'm just going to take a fuel. Okay, and the extra resource I can't do anything with, but I could, if I wanted, have a think about changing one of my spare parts. Also, whilst I'm here on the ground, and at any time that I'm on the ground, I can always rearrange all my spare parts as I wish. So let's say I decided that I wanted to have an extra fly symbol at my disposal. I could rearrange like that. Okay, so I have done my first phase. Whenever I'm on the ground, whether I'm landing or I'm taking off, whenever I'm on the ground, I can always, as one of the things I can do for free, take 2 additional things on by the way of passengers or cargo. So I can either take on 2 passengers or 2 cargo, or a cargo and a passenger. Now this space actually only has 1 cargo here. This is a field cargo. Wants to go to a grassed area, but I'll take it, hoping to deliver that later on in the game. So I'll take that and I'll go and plop it down in my cargo. I can throw away a spare part. You can always throw away spare parts. What you can't do is throw away cargo or passengers. Okay, so I've done that. Okay, that's my first phase. My second phase, I'm now going to take off. So I take my dice. Now, how many dice do I have to take off? Well, I have a look at my dashboard and it tells me that I have 3 dice there. These are these. Any time there's a symbol right with a box around it, that basically means a dice. Ones normally without the boxes around them refer to the number of symbols that you have to achieve to pass the test. Okay. So anyway, here we have 3 dice. So I take 3. I roll the dice, and I've got 2 take-off symbols. See, 1, 2. I've also got an explosion marker. Now, how many symbols do I need? Well, up here it says I need 4 symbols. However, I have forgotten one thing, which is that of course I'm a seaplane, and a seaplane always rolls 2 extra dice when it is in water conditions for taking off. So let's roll those extra dice, and now I've got the 4 symbols. I should have rolled them all at the start, by the way. I just forgot that conveniently. Anyway, there we are. So I've got my 4 symbols. I am fine. I take off. Okay. Now let's say for the moment that I'd failed. If I'd failed and I'd got one of those symbols, that would have been what we call a catastrophic failure. So you can either pass a test, you can fail the test, or you can catastrophically fail. Passing a fly test means you take off. You just go up there into the air. Okay. Failing a fly test, you just stay on the ground. That's the end of your phase. Catastrophically failing, which would have been the case earlier on when I only had 2 symbols and an explosion symbol, and I hadn't got the 4 I needed. Catastrophically failing means that I would take damage. Okay, but I passed, so I am airborne. Now that's the end of my turn. I draw an extra card. I then consider the cards that I've got. Here, and maybe I decide I'm going to discard one of these cards because I have to. My hand limit is 3. Okay, that's the end of my turn, and now it's the turn for the other players in the game. When it gets round to me again, here I am in the air. I have 2 phases. So my thought here is to fly on to the next space with a view to landing in it and delivering that cargo. I need 2 symbols plus the 1 there, which is a total of 3. The extra 1 is because of the weather tile, which is cloudy weather. However, I'm this pilot here, and this pilot here ignores 1 weather symbol. So I'm actually only needing 2. So the number of dice that I roll are here, so 4. I roll 4, wanting to see 2 flying symbols, and I've got 3, so no problem at all. I fly on. Okay. Now I attempt to do my landing. Now here we've got fog. The weather conditions are foggy, which basically means that landing I require 2 extra land symbols, so I actually need a total of 6 symbols to land. I'm going to be rolling 4 dice. I don't get any benefit for being a seaplane because this is not a sea area, water area. This is a mountain, so I'm rolling 4 dice. Not much I can do about it, so I'll have a go and we'll see how we get on. I've actually managed to get to 5 symbols. Okay, but that still means I've failed. However, you'll notice there's no explosion symbol there, so that means that I haven't catastrophically failed. You can pass tests by throwing away extra spare parts, but I've got no landing spare parts in my internal storage space. I've only got 1 in my external storage space, and that's not available to me at the moment. Fortunately, I've got a couple of cards that I can use that, in fact all 3 of these cards are actually potentially useful. The safe hands here says play to automatically pass a landing test even if you just failed it, so that'll be quite useful. Reserves of luck, play to take a luck token, which then you could use to pass any test. And speed trial, score 1 victory. Sorry, no. In the case of speed trial, it's not the text that I'm using here. I'm ignoring that, but it's the symbol at the bottom. You can always throw away these cards to use the symbol at the bottom to pass the test. So let's. But the speed trial is extra victory points, and I might be thinking holding on to that to use that when I'm doing a long run later in the game. So what I'll do is throw away the safe hands, play to automatically pass a landing test even if I've just failed it. Okay, so that goes away, and I've landed. Whenever you land, you can always deliver appropriate cargo. In this case, the mountain. Whenever you can land, you can take an extra fuel on if you've got space, but I haven't. Whenever you land safely, that is, but I haven't got space for it. I can take two things. Well, there's no cargo, but there is this passenger. So let's take the passenger, and we'll take a risk, because maybe I'm thinking I'm close to an airfield. So taking the passenger on for the short hop to the next airfield isn't such a bad thing. Okay, and that is the end of my turn. My two phases in that turn will fly and land. That is the end of that turn. So I draw another card into my hand, and I wait for my turn. It comes round to me again, but while we're waiting for my the turn to go through, I'll have the option occasionally. Some of these cards allow you to play tricks on other people, dirty trick cards, or what we call CAD symbols, which are these things that look like a moustache. So if my mate Fred over here, who's got the monoplane, was about to do a test with 4 dice, I could discard that card, and that would mean he would lose a dice, and he would only be rolling with 3 dice instead, which might mean he fails the test. Anyway, assuming he gets round to me again, I decide I'm going to take off. To take off in this space, I need a 4. I've only got 3 symbols, so we'll roll the dice, and I've only got a 1, so that's not very good. I haven't got an explosion symbol, so this is not a catastrophic failure. It would just be the end of that phase, and I could have another go. But I decided I want to try and pass this test, and there's various ways that I can do that. The high quality engine oil that I had, which is my equipment here, which I had earlier on, if I discard charges from that, every charge that I discard allows me to take another dice and roll. Oh, I've got another one, so let's discard another one, roll another dice. Oh, that's not really good this time. I'll go on, we'll have another go. Still no good. All right, fine, we'll use our 4th one, and so on. Now, another way to pass the test would be to use spare parts. Well, I've got a spare part here, so that would get me up to 3, but unfortunately I would normally need 4. But of course, Janu Rajan, the navigator, ignores one symbol of weather, so he ignores that. I only need a 3, so with those 2 and a spare part, I pass the test and I can take off. Another way that I could pass the test is I could burn 2 fuel. 2 fuel automatically passes you with 1 test, either takeoff or flying, but not landing. So I could use those 2 fuel up to pass the test. So there are a few different ways to mitigate disaster. There's also the possibility of cards. Some of the cards, like the one that gives me a luck token, will allow me to do it. But sometimes your luck just runs out and there's nothing you can do. And if you had not achieved anything in a turn, that is where you get to take a luck token, which is an automatic pass in a subsequent turn. So the game proceeds essentially like that until you players reach an airfield, and whoever reaches the airfield first is able to take the top of those markers. Regardless of how they land, it doesn't matter if they crash land, it doesn't matter if they do a bumpy landing. To take these first to land markers on the ordinary spaces, you have to have done a safe landing. On the airfields, it doesn't matter. Just get down in any way you can, and you take that. You can also, on the middle airfield, take the opportunity to have a look and see if there's any of the equipment tiles that you might want to swap. There are 6 of these will be laid out, and you might decide to replace one of your existing ones with another piece of equipment. So that's what happens on the middle airfield. On the final airfield, once you get to the final airfield, when you've landed on there, in subsequent turns you can do what are called final airfield actions, which are listed here. They give you an opportunity to repair damage that you took during the race, or to score bonus points whilst you wait for other players to land. When the last but one person is landed, the penultimate person has landed, the last person, the game continues with people taking their turns at final airfield turns or turns on the course, and if once it gets round to the final person who's still in the air or still out on the course who hasn't yet landed, he gets one final turn to try and get to the final airfield, and if he does not get to the final airfield on that final turn, he won't score any points for any passengers or cargo that he hasn't yet delivered. So it's a bit of an incentive to try and keep up with the pack and not to dawdle too much. That's the basic game. In the more advanced game, you would literally construct the your flying machine by choosing a pilot of the 18, choosing one of the 6 terrain flight dashboards, going around the table. Going around the table, you would each choose pieces of equipment, and then finally you get a choice of the exact composition of these spare parts as well. And once that is all done, you then fly the race in the normal way. There is an option as well for a longer course with an extra tile in each section, so another 2 tiles for 2-player games where you each play 2 flying machines and you add the points together. And we're looking at options for a couple of different scenarios of courses, maybe one with lots of mountains, one with lots of watery areas, one with several towns that you have to do passenger deliveries to and from. Okay, anyway, that's the basis of the game. I hope that helps a little bit in understanding it. Obviously the rule book will be there, although we're still working on its layout at the moment. By all means email me if you have any questions.